Hello, and welcome to Calm Quantum, where stillness meets the universe. I'm so grateful you found your way here tonight. Whether you're settling into bed, curling up in a quiet corner, or simply seeking a moment of contemplative wonder in your day, tonight, we're exploring something that has captured the imagination of millions, yet remains one of the most misunderstood concepts at the intersection of science and consciousness. It's called quantum manifestation. And here's the paradox that will guide our journey together. If quantum manifestation were truly as simple as its proponents claim, if the universe really responded to our thoughts and intentions through quantum mechanical processes, then why do so few people achieve the dramatic life changes they seek? Why do laboratories filled with brilliant physicists who understand quantum mechanics better than anyone not use these supposed techniques to manifest their own desires? This question opens a doorway into something far more fascinating than simple wish fulfillment. It invites us to explore the genuine mysteries of consciousness, the actual principles of quantum physics, and the remarkable ways our minds shape our experience of reality through mechanisms that are both more subtle and more profound than any mystical explanation could provide. Take a deep breath with me now and let yourself settle into this quiet exploration. If you find value in these gentle journeys through science and consciousness, consider subscribing to Calm Quantum. It helps others discover this peaceful space where wonder meets understanding. Tonight's journey will unfold like layers of morning mist, revealing a landscape you thought you knew, but have never truly seen. We'll discover why the human brain is perhaps the most sophisticated prediction machine in the known universe, how visualization literally rewires your neural pathways, and why the placebo effect might be the closest thing we have to real magic, operating through mechanisms that are entirely natural, yet utterly extraordinary. But first, let me share something that might surprise you. Every single claim about quantum manifestation, every promise that your thoughts can directly influence quantum fields to reshape reality, every assertion that consciousness collapses wave functions to create desired outcomes, rests on fundamental misunderstandings of both quantum physics and neuroscience. Yet here's what's truly remarkable. When we peel away the pseudoscientific language and examine what actually happens when people practice manifestation techniques, we discover something far more beautiful and scientifically fascinating than any mystical explanation could provide. The real story of manifestation lives not in the quantum realm of subatomic particles, but in the neural networks of your own magnificent brain. It operates not through mysterious energy fields, but through the well-documented processes of neuroplasticity, attention, and the extraordinary capacity of consciousness to reshape its own substrate. As we begin this exploration together, imagine your mind as a vast, dark ocean at night. On the surface, gentle waves of conscious thought rise and fall. But beneath, in the deeper currents of your unconscious processing, something remarkable is always happening. Your brain is constantly predicting your future, filtering reality through the lens of your expectations, and preparing your body and mind for the experiences it believes are most likely to occur. This is not mysticism. This is measurable, observable neuroscience. And it reveals why manifestation techniques, stripped of their quantum rhetoric, can indeed create profound changes in people's lives. Let me begin with a story that illustrates both the allure and the fundamental confusion surrounding quantum manifestation. Dr. Sarah Chen, a physicist at MIT, once attended a weekend workshop on quantum manifestation, not because she believed in it, but because she was curious about how quantum physics was being interpreted by the general public. The workshop leader, a charismatic teacher with no formal physics training, began by describing quantum superposition. Just as an electron can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, he explained, your life exists in multiple potential realities until you choose which one to manifest through focused intention. Dr. Chen sat quietly as the instructor continued. When you visualize your desired outcome with sufficient emotional intensity, you collapse the quantum wave function of possibility into the specific reality you want to experience. After the session, Dr. Chen approached the instructor. I'm curious, she said gently, about the mechanism by which human consciousness might influence quantum superposition at the macroscopic scale. Could you explain how this would work, given what we know about decoherence in warm, noisy environments? The instructor paused, clearly unfamiliar with the term decoherence, then responded, well, consciousness transcends ordinary physical limitations. We're dealing with quantum fields that operate beyond classical physics. This exchange illustrates the central challenge we face when examining quantum manifestation claims. The language sounds sophisticated and scientific, but it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of how quantum mechanics actually operates. Quantum superposition, the phenomenon where particles exist in multiple states simultaneously, is indeed real. But it occurs at the subatomic scale in carefully isolated laboratory conditions for incredibly brief moments measured in nanoseconds or microseconds. When quantum systems interact with their environment, a process called decoherence causes superposition to collapse almost instantaneously. Your brain, operating at normal body temperature in a complex biochemical environment, is about as far from quantum isolation as you can imagine. The warm, wet, electrically active neural networks that generate your thoughts and process your intentions are classical systems governed by the same physics that describes everything else at the human scale. This doesn't diminish the profound mystery of consciousness. It simply locates that mystery in the right place, in the extraordinary emergence of subjective experience from neural activity, rather than in misapplied quantum mechanics. But here's where our story becomes truly interesting. When researchers began studying what actually happens in the brains of people practicing manifestation techniques, they discovered something remarkable. The techniques work, but not for the reasons their proponents imagine. Dr. Alvaro Pascual-León's groundbreaking research at Harvard revealed that mental practice, the kind of focused visualization central to manifestation techniques, creates measurable changes in brain structure. When subjects spent time each day imagining themselves performing specific motor tasks, their brains developed new neural pathways as if they had been physically practicing those tasks. The implications are staggering. Your brain doesn't distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual experiences when it comes to building neural networks. When you repeatedly visualize achieving a goal, experiencing success, or embodying confidence, you're literally rewiring your brain to support those states and behaviors. This is neuroplasticity in action, the brain's extraordinary ability to reorganize itself throughout your lifetime. Every time you engage in focused visualization, you're strengthening specific neural circuits while allowing others to weaken. Over time, these changes reshape not just how you think, but how you perceive opportunities, how you respond to challenges, and what actions feel natural and automatic. Consider the implications for a moment. If you spend 10 minutes each morning visualizing yourself as confident and successful, you're training your brain to recognize and generate the neural patterns associated with confidence and success. When similar situations arise in your actual life, your brain has already rehearsed the appropriate responses. This is why athletes have used mental rehearsal for decades. not because they believe in quantum manifestation, but because they understand that the brain treats vividly imagined practice as genuine preparation. When a gymnast visualizes a perfect routine, her motor cortex activates the same neural pathways she would use during actual performance. Her brain is literally practicing, even while her body remains still. The manifestation techniques that actually work operate through this same mechanism. They're not manipulating quantum fields or attracting outcomes through vibrational frequency matching. They're engaging your brain's natural learning and prediction systems to prepare you for the experiences you desire. But there's another crucial component to understanding why these techniques can be effective. It involves a remarkable system in your brain called the reticular activating system, or RAS. This network of neurons acts as a filter, determining which of the millions of sensory inputs you receive every moment actually reach your conscious awareness. Your RAS is constantly asking, what's important right now? What should I pay attention to? What can I safely ignore? And it makes these decisions based on your current goals, fears, interests, and expectations. It's the reason you suddenly notice red cars everywhere after deciding you want to buy a red car. The red cars were always there, but your RAS wasn't flagging them as relevant until your interest changed. This system evolved to help our ancestors survive in complex, information-rich environments. A rustle in the bushes might be wind, or it might be a predator. Your RAS helps determine which sounds, sights, and sensations deserve your attention and which can be filtered out. In the context of manifestation, when you repeatedly focus on specific goals or outcomes, you're programming your RAS to notice opportunities, resources, and information related to those goals. You're not attracting these things through quantum entanglement or vibrational matching. You're simply training your brain to recognize them when they appear. Let me share a personal example that illustrates this principle. A friend of mine, Elena, spent months practicing what she called quantum manifestation to find her ideal romantic partner. She created detailed visualizations, wrote in a manifestation journal, and maintained what she described as high vibrational energy around love and relationships. After 6 months, Elena met someone who seemed to perfectly match her visualized ideal partner. She attributed this to the power of quantum manifestation, convinced that her focused intention had somehow influenced reality to bring this person into her life. But when we examined her experience more closely, a different picture emerged. During those 6 months of focused intention, Elena had unconsciously begun making different choices. She started attending social events she previously would have avoided. She became more open to conversations with strangers. She began recognizing potential compatibility in people she might have previously overlooked. Her visualization practice hadn't manipulated quantum fields. It had reprogrammed her RAS to notice romantic opportunities and motivated her to take actions that increased her chances of meeting someone compatible. The outcome was real, but the mechanism was entirely neurological rather than mystical. This pattern appears again and again when we examine successful manifestation stories. People who achieve their visualized goals invariably report taking different actions, noticing opportunities they previously missed, and developing increased motivation and persistence toward their desired outcomes. The emotional component of manifestation techniques also plays a crucial role, but again through well-understood psychological rather than quantum mechanical processes. When you visualize your goals positive with strong emotion, you're not raising your vibrational frequency to match some universal energy field. You're engaging your brain's reward systems and emotional memory networks in ways that increase motivation and commitment. Dr. Antonio Damasio's research on emotion and decision-making reveals that purely rational analysis rarely leads to action. We need emotional investment to sustain effort over time. The feelings of joy, gratitude, and excitement that manifestation practices cultivate serve as powerful motivators for the consistent action required to achieve meaningful goals. Moreover, positive emotional states broaden your cognitive flexibility and creativity. When you feel good about your future possibilities, you're more likely to notice creative solutions, take calculated risks, and persist through temporary setbacks. These are the real mechanisms through which emotional visualization influences outcomes. There's also fascinating research on what psychologists call implementation intentions, the specific plans we make about how to respond to future situations. When manifestation practices include detailed visualization of the steps required to achieve goals, they're essentially creating implementation intentions that make appropriate actions more automatic when opportunities arise. For example, if you visualize not just having your ideal job, but also the specific actions you would take if you saw a relevant job posting, met someone in that industry, or had the chance to demonstrate your skills, you're pre-programming behavioral responses that increase your chances of success when these situations occur. This is why the most effective manifestation techniques include both outcome visualization and process visualization. Seeing yourself achieving your goal creates emotional investment and programs your RAS to notice relevant opportunities. Visualizing the specific steps and behaviors that lead to that goal creates neural pathways that make those behaviors more likely when the time comes to act. As we pause here in our exploration, take a moment to reflect on your own experience. Have you ever noticed how setting a clear intention seems to make related opportunities appear more frequently in your life? This isn't evidence of quantum influence on reality. It's evidence of your brain's extraordinary capacity to filter and prioritize information based on your current goals and interests. The universe's ConSP brain is constantly your magnificent helping to you achieve your desires, but working to align your perception and behavior with your most deeply held intentions. Understanding this real mechanism is far more empowering than relying on mystical explanations, because it reveals the specific steps you can take to harness these natural processes more effectively. If you're finding this gentle journey through the science of manifestation illuminating, consider sharing it with someone who values the intersection of wonder and understanding. And as we continue, we'll explore why the placebo effect might be the closest thing we have to actual magic in the universe, operating through mechanisms that are both completely natural and utterly extraordinary. But first, let's delve deeper into the quantum realm itself, not as manifestation teachers present it, but as it actually exists in the laboratories where physicists study the genuine mysteries of reality at its most fundamental level. The quantum realm itself exists in a state of perpetual mystery that would astonish even the most imaginative manifestation teacher. But this mystery operates according to principles so precise, so mathematically elegant, that they can predict the behavior of electrons to 15 decimal places. It's a realm where particles truly do exist in multiple states simultaneously, where information travels instantaneously across cosmic distances, and where the very act of measurement participates in creating the reality we observe. Yet none of these genuine quantum phenomena operate at the scale of human experience in the ways that manifestation teachers suggest. Let me guide you into the actual quantum world, not as a mystical realm of infinite possibility, but as the most thoroughly tested and precisely understood theory in all of science. Picture an electron orbiting an atomic nucleus. In our classical imagination, we might see it as a tiny planet following a predictable path around a miniature sun. But quantum mechanics reveals something far stranger. The electron exists as a cloud of probability, a mathematical wave function that describes not where it is, but where it might be when we choose to look. This superposition is real, measurable, and fundamental to how atoms hold together. But it exists in conditions of extraordinary isolation, at temperatures approaching absolute zero, in systems carefully shielded from any environmental interference. The moment this quantum system interacts with its surroundings, the delicate superposition collapses in a process called decoherence that happens faster than thought itself. Dr. Serge Haroche, who won the Nobel Prize in 2012 for his work on quantum systems, demonstrated conclusively that quantum effects disappear as objects become larger and warmer. Your brain, with its billions of neurons firing in a warm, electrically active environment, represents exactly the kind of system where quantum coherence cannot survive for any meaningful duration. This isn't a limitation of our understanding. It's a fundamental feature of how quantum mechanics works. The same principles that make quantum superposition possible also ensure that it cannot persist in complex, warm, noisy systems like living organisms operating at body temperature. But here's what's truly fascinating. While your thoughts cannot directly influence quantum fields or collapse wave functions to manifest desired outcomes, your brain operates according to principles that are every bit as mysterious and remarkable as anything in quantum physics. Consider the extraordinary fact that you are conscious right now. Billions of neurons, each one a biological machine processing electrochemical signals, somehow give rise to the unified experience of being you. You don't experience billions of separate neural firings. You experience a single, coherent stream of consciousness that can contemplate its own existence. This is what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness, and it remains as mysterious today as it was when humans first wondered about the nature of their own awareness. We can map every neural pathway, measure every electrical impulse, trace every chemical reaction in the brain, and yet the emergence of subjective experience from objective neural activity remains profoundly mysterious. Some scientists speculate that consciousness might involve quantum processes, but these theories remain highly controversial and unproven. What we do know is that consciousness exhibits properties that seem to transcend the simple sum of neural activity. Your awareness can hold multiple concepts simultaneously, integrate information across different brain regions instantaneously, and generate creative insights that emerge seemingly from nowhere. Dr. Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory suggests that consciousness arises when information becomes integrated across neural networks in ways that create something genuinely new. Not quantum superposition, but informational integration that transforms separate neural events into unified conscious experience. This integration happens through processes we're only beginning to understand. When you have a sudden insight, when disparate pieces of information suddenly click together to form a new understanding, your brain is performing feats of information processing that rival anything in quantum computing, yet operate through entirely classical neural mechanisms. The default mode network in your brain, active during rest and introspection, constantly generates predictions about your future based on patterns from your past. This isn't mystical precognition. It's sophisticated pattern recognition that helps you navigate an uncertain world by preparing for likely scenarios before they occur. When you practice visualization, you're engaging this predictive system in powerful ways. You're not sending signals to quantum fields, but you are training your brain to recognize and prepare for specific types of future experiences. The more vividly and emotionally you imagine achieving a goal, the more your brain treats that scenario as a likely future worth preparing for. This preparation happens at multiple levels. Your motor cortex develops neural pathways associated with the actions you visualize. Your emotional centers create positive associations with goal-related activities. Your attention systems become tuned to notice opportunities and resources that support your visualized outcomes. Dr. Arne Dietrich's research on the neuroscience of creativity reveals that breakthrough insights often emerge when the brain temporarily reduces activity in regions associated with focused attention and self-criticism. This allows unusual connections to form between normally separate neural networks, generating novel combinations of existing information. Manifestation practices that include open, receptive states of consciousness might facilitate this process, not by accessing quantum fields, but by creating the neural conditions conducive to creative insight and problem solving. When you quiet your analytical mind and allow yourself to imagine freely, you're giving your brain permission to make connections it might otherwise suppress. The emotional component of effective manifestation practices also operates through well-understood neurobiological mechanisms. When you generate feelings of gratitude, joy, or excitement while visualizing your goals, you're activating reward pathways that increase motivation and persistence. These positive emotions also broaden your cognitive flexibility, making you more likely to notice unexpected opportunities and creative solutions. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson's research on positive emotions reveals that feelings like gratitude and joy literally expand your awareness, making you more receptive to environmental information and more willing to take beneficial risks. This broadened awareness could easily be mistaken for attracting positive experiences when it's actually helping you recognize and act on opportunities that were always present. The social aspects of manifestation practices also deserve consideration. When you share your goals with others, write them down, or participate in manifestation communities, you're creating accountability systems that increase the likelihood of taking consistent action. Social commitment is one of the most powerful motivators for behavioral change, operating through psychological rather than quantum mechanical processes. Moreover, the act of articulating your goals clearly, whether through writing or visualization, forces you to clarify what you actually want and why. This clarity helps align your conscious intentions with unconscious decision-making processes, reducing internal conflict and increasing the consistency of goal-directed behavior. Let me share another story that illustrates these principles in action. Marcus, a software engineer, spent months practicing what he believed was quantum manifestation to transition into a more creative career. He visualized himself as a successful graphic designer, felt the emotions he imagined he would experience in that role, and maintained what he called high vibrational energy around creativity and artistic expression. Within a year, Marcus had indeed transitioned into graphic design work. He attributed this transformation to quantum manifestation, convinced that his focused intention had somehow influenced reality to create this career change. But when we examine his experience more closely, we see the real mechanisms at work. During his months of visualization practice, Marcus unconsciously began making different choices. He started noticing design elements in his environment that he'd previously ignored. He began experimenting with creative software in his spare time. He found himself drawn to expression, conversations about quantum fields. It had reprogrammed visual aesthetics and artistic. His attention and desire hadn't previously. His visualization practice hadn't manipulate. He already commit a career transition motivation systems to support but to pursuing. The creative visualization provided emotional fuel for the sustained effort required to develop new skills and pursue new opportunities. The emotional engagement was crucial. By repeatedly imagining himself feeling fulfilled and successful as a designer, Marcus was training his brain to associate creative activities with positive emotions. This made creative pursuits feel more natural and enjoyable, increasing his willingness to invest time and energy in developing design skills. His reticular activating system, now programmed to prioritize designed, him notice job-related information, help postings, networking opportunities, and educational resources that supported his career transition. These opportunities had always existed, but his previous focus on software engineering had filtered them out of his conscious awareness. The confidence and enthusiasm generated by his visualization practice also influenced how others perceived and responded to him. When Marcus spoke about his design interests, his genuine passion and confidence made him more compelling to potential mentors and employers. This isn't quantum attraction, but social psychology in action. As we pause to reflect on these mechanisms, notice how much more empowering this understanding becomes than relying on mystical explanations. When you understand that visualization works by training your brain's prediction and attention systems, you can practice it more when you know effectively. That positive emotions broaden awareness and increase persistence. You can cultivate them more intentionally. The placebo effect provides perhaps the most compelling evidence for the power of believed expectation to create measurable changes in experience. When patients believe they're receiving effective treatment, their brains often generate real improvements in symptoms, even when the treatment itself is inert. This isn't wish imaging studies reveal deception. Brainful thinking or self that placebo responses involve same neural pathways activated by actual medications. The brain's expectation of relief literally creates chemical changes that produce neural relief. The effect is genuine. Even the mechanism is psychological, though, rather than pharmacological. In the context of goal achievement, positive expectations can create similarly believe you can achieve something effects. When you genu, your brain begins preparing for success in ways that make success more likely. You become in the more persistent face of obstacles, more creative in finding solutions, and more willing to take the risks necessary for significant achievement. This isn't quantum manifestation, but it's something equally remarkable. Your brain's extraordinary capacity to shape experience through expectation and belief, through neural operating mechanisms that evolution has refined over millions of years to help organisms navigate uncertain environments successfully. Dr. Fabrizio Benedetti's research on placebo effects reveals that different activate types of expectations, different neural systems. Expectations motor about performance influence, motor cortex activity. Expectations about pain relief activate endogenous opioid systems. Expectations about mood improvement influence neurotransmitter production. The implications for manifestation practices are profound. When you visualize specific types of success, genuine belief, and emotional engagement, you may be activating the very neural systems that support those types of performance in real-world situations. But there's a crucial difference between understanding these mechanisms scientifically and misattributing them to quantum physics. The scientific understanding provides specific guidance about how to practice more effectively. It reveals why emotional engagement, vivid imagery repetition are important and consistent. It explains why combining visualization with actual skill development and strategic action produces better results than visualization alone. The quantum manifestation explanation, by contrast, offers no specific guidance because it's based on misunderstood physics. It can't tell you how to visualize more effectively because it misunderstands the mechanisms through which visualization actually operates. Moreover, the scientific understanding protects you from the magical thinking that can undermine effective action. When you believe your thoughts can directly manipulate quantum fields, you might neglect the practical steps necessary to achieve your goals. When you understand that visualization works by preparing your brain for effective action, you're more likely to combine mental practice with the real-world effort required for meaningful achievement. The concept of quantum entanglement, frequently invoked in manifestation teachings, represents another fascinating example of how genuine quantum phenomena get misapplied to human experience. Quantum entanglement is real, experimentally verified, and genuinely mysterious. When particles become entangled, measuring one instantly affects the state of its partner, regardless of the distance separating them. This phenomenon has been demonstrated over distances of hundreds of kilometers and forms the basis for emerging quantum communication technologies. It's one of the most thoroughly tested and practically applied aspects of quantum mechanics. But entanglement operates under extremely specific conditions. The entangled particles must be prepared in special ways, maintained in isolated systems, and measured with precise instruments. Environmental interference destroys entanglement almost instantaneously, which is why quantum computers require such extraordinary isolation and cooling. The idea that human consciousness could become quantum entangled with other people or with desired outcomes has no scientific basis. Your thoughts and emotions, while profoundly influential on your own neural activity and behavior, cannot create quantum correlations with external systems at room temperature over macroscopic distances. Yet the appeal of this idea reveals something important about human psychology. We intuitively sense our deep interconnection with other people and with the world around us. We experience synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, and moments of profound connection that feel like more than mere chance. These experiences are real and significant. It requires quantum entanglement to explain, but they dawn them. The human capacity for pattern recognition, the social nature of our species, and the statistical likelihood of meaningful coincidences in information-rich environments provide more than adequate explanations for these phenomena. When you focus intensely on particular goals or relationships, you naturally become more attuned to related information and opportunities. This increased sensitivity can create the impression of mysterious connections when it's actually demonstrating the extraordinary sophistication of your brain's information processing systems. As we continue our gentle exploration, I invite Remarkable About You to notice something your own experience right now. You're processing these concepts, beliefs, comparing them to your existing, perhaps feeling moments of recognition or resistance. This complex cognitive and emotional processing is happening through mechanisms that are entirely natural, yet utterly extraordinary. Your consciousness is integrating information from multiple sources, generating new understanding, and potentially reshaping your future behavior, all through processes that evolution has refined over millions of years. This real magic of human consciousness is the operating through mechanisms that are both completely explainable and profoundly mysterious in their ultimate implications. If you're finding this journey through the intersection of quantum physics and consciousness illuminating, Take a moment to reflect on how these insights might apply to your own life and aspirations. And remember, the goal isn't to dismiss the experiences that drew you to manifestation practices, but to understand them more clearly, so you can work with them more effectively. In our next exploration, we'll delve into the fascinating world of neuroplasticity and discover why the brain's capacity to reorganize itself throughout your lifetime might closest be the thing we have to genuine shape how meditation shifting abilities. We'll explore in contemplative practices create me's and wireable changes in brain structure. Understanding these mechanisms can make your mental training far more precise and effective than any quantum explanation could provide. But first, let's pause in this moment of quiet understanding, appreciating the remarkable fact that consciousness can contemplate consciousness, that awareness can become aware of its own awareness, and that the universe has somehow organized itself in such a way that it can wonder about its own nature through minds like yours. The profound mystery deepens when we consider how your brain constructs what you experience as reality itself. Right now, as you process these words, your visual cortex is assembling patterns light into meaningful of symbols. Your auditory system is transforming vibrations into language, and your prefrontal cortex is weaving these sensory inputs into coherent understanding. Yet none of what you're experiencing exists in the form you perceive it outside your skull. This isn't philosophical speculation. This is measurable neuroscience revealing something that would astonish even the most imaginative manifestation teacher. Your brain doesn't passively receive reality. It actively constructs it, moment by moment, through processes so sophisticated that they make quantum computers seem primitive by comparison. Dr. Andy Clark's research on predictive processing reveals that your brain operates as what he calls a prediction machine, constantly generating models of what it expects to encounter based on past experience. These predictions shape not just what you notice, but what you actually experience. Your brain doesn't wait for sensory information to arrive and then interpret it. Instead, it predicts what should be there and uses incoming signals primarily to correct its predictions when they're wrong. This means that much of what you experience as perception is actually your brain's best guess about reality, refined by sensory feedback, but fundamentally constructed from internal models. When manifestation practices involve vivid visualization, you're not sending signals to quantum fields. You're training these predictive systems to expect influences, both what you notice in your environment and how you interpret ambiguous situations. Consider the extraordinary implications. If your brain is constantly predicting your future experiences based on patterns from your past, then practices that deliberately reshape these patterns could genuinely transform your lived reality, not by manipulating external quantum fields, but by rewiring the internal neural networks that construct your moment-to-moment experience of existence. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett's groundbreaking research on constructed ground emotion reveals that even your feelings are predictions. When you experience anxiety, joy, or excitement, your brain is not simply detecting these emotions in your body. It's constructing these emotional experiences based on learned patterns, current context, and predictive models about what you should be feeling in similar situations. This discovery transforms our understanding of how emotional visualization might influence outcomes. When imagine you repeatedly feeling confident, successful, or fulfilled while working toward specific goals, you're not raising your vibrational frequency to attract corresponding experiences. You're training your brain's predictive systems to construct these positive emotional states more readily when goal-related situations arise. The implications cascade through every aspect of experience. Your brain predicts not just what you'll see and feel, but how capable you are. What available to opportunities are you, and what actions are likely to succeed. These predictions become self-fulfilling not through mystical attraction, but through the fundamental way your brain constructs your experience of reality moment by moment. Let me share a story that illuminates these principles in action. Dr. Maria Santos, a neuroscientist studying Gebo effects, once worked with a patient named James who suffered from chronic pain that hadn't responded to conventional treatments. As part of a research study, James began practicing what he believed was quantum healing visualization, spending 30 minutes each day imagining his pain dissolving into healing light. Over several months, James experienced significant pain reduction. Brain scans revealed measurable changes in his pain processing networks, with decreased activity in regions associated with suffering, and to pain mod increased activity in areas linked to elation. James attributed these changes to quantum energy healing, convinced that his visualizations had directly influenced the body's quantum field. But Dr. Santos recognized what was actually happening. James's visualization practice had engaged his brain's predictive systems in powerful ways. By repeatedly imagining pain relief, he had trained his neural networks to predict less similar pain in circumstances. These predictions influenced both his conscious experience of pain and the unconscious physiological responses that modulate pain signals. The healing was genuine, the brain changes were measurable, and the pain mechanism, operate relief, was real. But then through well-understood neuroplasticity rather opal than quantum field manipulation. Understanding this real mechanism made James's practice more effective because he could refine his visualization techniques based on actual knowledge of how prediction and attention systems function. This pattern appears throughout the manifestation literature. People achieve real results, but through rather neural practices that work most than quantum mechanisms. The visualization effectively are those that engage the brain's predictive systems in ways that support desired outcomes through attention, emotion, and behavioral preparation mode network. That, the default vast neural system during rest and introspection, plays active a particularly crucial role in these processes. When you're not focused on immediate tasks, this network generates what researchers call mental time travel, creating detailed simulations of possible futures based on memories of the past. These simulations aren't just daydreaming. They're sophisticated preparation systems that help you navigate uncertainty by rehearsing responses to likely scenarios. Dr. Judson Brewer's research reveals that mindfulness and visualization practices can influence how the default mode network operates. Instead of generating RISE or reg words, trained practitioners can guide this system toward constructive future simulation. When you visualize achieving specific goals with emotional engagement, you're essentially hacking this high-J natural planning system to rehearse success rather than failure. The emotional component remains crucial, but for neurological rather than vibrational reasons. Positive emotions associated with goal visualization activate reward pathways that increase motivation and persistence. They also influence memory consolidation, making goal-related information more likely to be retained and recalled when relevant opportunities arise. Dr. Mauricio Delgado's research on reward prediction reveals that when you imagine achieving desired outcomes while experiencing positive emotions, your brain treats these mental rehearsals as actual reward experiences. This creates anticipatory motivation that influences making an real-world decision, action you're not attracted to. Viewing external rewards through emotional resonance, you're training your internal reward systems to value and types to pursue specific of outcomes. The social neuroscience dimension adds another layer of understanding. When you visualize social success, confident interactions, or positive relationships, you're training the neural networks involved in social cognition and emotional regulation. Dr. Matthew Lieberman's research reveals that social connection activates the same reward pathways as physical pleasure, suggesting that visualization of positive social outcomes could influence both your motivation to seek such experiences and your skill in creating them. Mirror neuron systems, discovered by Dr. Giacomo Rizzolatti, provide additional insight into how visualization might influence social outcomes. These neurons fire both when you perform actions and when you observe others performing similar actions. When you visualize yourself behaving confidently or compassionately, you may be activating the same mirror neuron networks that would fire during actual confident or compassionate behavior. This neural rehearsal could improve your actual performance in social situations, not through quantum entanglement with other people, but through the well-documented effects of mental practice on motor and social skills. Athletes have used mental rehearsal for decades because understand that the vividly imagined practice brain treats V as genuine preparation for actual performance. The temporal dimension of consciousness adds yet another fascinating layer to our exploration. Your experience of the present moment isn't actually immediate. Due to the time required for neural processing, what you experience as now is actually basic construction on sensory information from several milliseconds ago, integrated with predictions about what should be happening in this moment. Dr. Ernst Pöppel's research on temporal processing reveals that consciousness operates in discrete, rather than as moments a continuous stream. These moments, lasting roughly to the fundamental units of conscious 3 seconds, represent experience. Within each moment, your brain integrates sensory information, emotional responses, and predictive models into coherent experiential episodes. This temporal Chun consciousness hasking of profound implications for understanding how visualization practices might influence experience and focus. When you engaged visualization, you're training your brain to construct these experiential moments in ways that support your desired success visual outcomes. Each becomes a template experience that influences how your brain constructs similar moments in actual situations. The phenomenon of temporal binding, where events occurring close together in time are experienced as causally related, might explain why manifestation practitioners often notice meaningful coincidences following their visualization sessions. When you're actively looking for signs that your manifestation is brain's working, your pattern recognition systems become hyperactive, identifying connections between your mental events and subsequent practice that might have no causal relationship actual. This isn't evidence of quantum influence, but it demonstrates the extraordinary sophistication of human pattern recognition systems. Your brain evolved meaningful to detect patterns in complex environments, even when those patterns might sometimes be coincidental rather than causal. Understanding this tendency can help you appreciate meaningful attributing them to supernatural coincidences without mechanisms. The placebo effect reveals perhaps the most compelling evidence for consciousness influencing physical reality through natural rather than mystical mechanisms. When Dr. Fabrizio Benedetti administered placebo treatments to patients with Parkinson's disease, brain imaging revealed that expectation of improvement actually triggered release of dopamine in the same neural circuits targeted by actual Parkinson's medications. The patient's beliefs didn't manipulate quantum fields to healing created their expectations. Instead, activated in that evolution endogenous healing systems has refined over millions of years. The improvement was genuine mechanisms, the neural were measurable, and the outcomes were clinically significant, the process. But operated through established neurobiological pathways rather than quantum entanglement or vibrational frequency matching. This research reveals something profound about the relationship between consciousness and physical reality. Your thoughts and expectations can indeed influence your body and your experience, but through mechanisms that are entirely natural, yet utterly remarkable in their sophistication and power. Take own experience of a moment to reflect on you ever noticed how anticipation and belief have expectating positive outcomes seems to increase likelihood of their occurring? This isn't quantum manifestation, but it might be something equally extraordinary. Your brain's capacity to prepare for expected experiences in ways that make those experiences more likely to unfold as predicted. The research mindset, pioneered by Dr. on Growth Carol Dweck, provides additional insight into how beliefs influence outcomes through psychological rather than quantum mechanical processes. When you believe that abilities can be developed through effort and learning, you're more likely to persist through seek feedback and engage challenges in the deliberate practice necessary for skill development. This mindset influences behavior in countless subtle ways. You interpret setbacks as learning opportunities rather than evidence of fixed limitations. You seek challenges that promote growth rather than avoiding situations that might reveal current weaknesses. You invest more effort in skill development because you believe that effort will be rewarded with improvement. None of these effects require quantum physics to explain, yet they can create dramatic improvements in performance and achievement over time. Understanding these real mechanisms provides specific guidance about how to cultivate more effective beliefs and expectations. The neuroscience of attention, crucial component, reveals another of manifestation effectiveness. Dr. Michael Posner's research on attention networks shows that focused attention can literally reshape neural connectivity. When you repeatedly direct attention towards specific goals, relationships, or possibilities, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with those focus areas while allowing competing pathways to weaken through disuse. This selective strengthening influences not just what you notice, but how you think about and respond to relevant situations. Goals that receive consistent attention become more automatically activated in related contexts. Relationships that receive focused consideration become more emotionally significant. Possibilities that receive regular contemplation become more likely to influence decision-making and behavior. The attention training that occurs during visualization practice might be one of its most important benefits. Learning to sustain focus on desired outcomes, despite distractions, builds the same attentional control that supports goal pursuit in world situations. Challenging. This skill transfers real broadly performance, improving in any domain that requires sustained effort, despite obstacles or competing Zell priorities. Dr. Wen Braver's research on cognitive control reveals that the ability to maintain goal-relevant information in working memory while inhibiting irrelevant distractions predicts success across diverse domains. Visualization practice might improve these executive control abilities, enhancing general capacity for goal-directed behavior rather than specifically attracting visual concept of implementationized outcomes. The Intentions D extensively study Gallwitzer provides another by Dr. Peter's scientific framework for understanding why detailed visualization can influence outcomes. When you create specific mental plans about how to respond to future situations, these plans become automatically activated when the relevant situations arise, assing the need for conscious deliberation. For example, if you visualize not just achieving a career goal, but also the specific actions you would take when encountering relevant opportunities, You're creating intentions that make implementation appropriate responses more automatic when such opportunities actually appear. This automation increases the likelihood of taking advantage of fleeting opportunities that might otherwise be missed due to hesitation or uncertainty. The emotional regulation dimension adds yet another layer to our understanding. Dr. Kevin Oxner's research on cognitive reappraisal shows that how you interpret and frame experiences influences both their emotional impact and their long-term effects on well-being and motivation. Visualization practices that include positive emotional regulation strategies might improve your ability to maintain optimism and persistence when pursuing challenging goals. When imagine you repeatedly yourself responding to obstacles with creativity and determination, rather enragement, you're training emotional than dysregulation skills that will serve you well when actual obstacles arise. This mental rehearsal prepares you not just for success, but for the inevitable challenges that accompany any meaningful achievement. The sleep and memory consolidation research provides fascinating insights into when and how visualization might most effective. Dr. Matthew B. Walker's studies reveal that sleep plays a crucial role in transferring information in intake from short-term to long-term, rating new learning memory and with existing knowledge networks. Visualization practice before sleep might be particularly powerful because the images you, emotions, and intentions generate could be preferentially consolidated during subsequent sleep cycles. This would make goal-accessible and related information more readily in influential future-making situations decision. The practice isn't sending signals to quantum fields during sleep, but it might be optimally timed to engage natural memory consolidation processes. As we pause in this exploration, take a moment to appreciate the extraordinary sophistication of your own consciousness. Right now, your brain is integrating information from multiple sources, generating understanding, and perhaps reshaping your future behavior, all through processes that evolution has refined over millions of years to help organisms like you navigate complex, uncertain environments successfully. This is the real magic of human consciousness, operating through mechanisms that are both completely natural and utterly remarkable in their elegance and power. Understanding these mechanisms doesn't diminish the wonder of consciousness. Instead, it reveals just how extraordinary your mind truly is, capable of reshaping its own structure and function throughout your entire lifetime. If you're finding this gentle journey through the intersection of neuroscience and manifestation illuminating, consider sharing it with someone who values the union and contemplative wonder of scientific understanding. And as we continue, we'll explore how the most advanced meditation practitioners achieve states of consciousness that might represent thing we the closest have to genuine transcendence, operating through mechanisms that are both measurable and mysterious in their ultimate implications. But first, let's delve into the fascinating world of neuroplasticity and discover why your brain's capacity to reorganize itself throughout your lifetime might be the closest thing we have to genuine shape-shifting abilities, transforming not just how you think, but who you fundamentally are through the accumulated effects of conscious practice. The intention profound mystery of neuroplasticity reveals something that would astonish even the most optimistic manifestation teacher. Your brain doesn't simply process information like a biological computer. It literally reshapes its own structure based on how you use it, creating new neural pathways, strengthening existing connections, and even generating entirely new brain cells throughout your adult life. This isn't metaphorical transformation. This is measurable, physical restructuring of the organ that creates your experience of reality. When you engage in consistent mental practices, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're changing your brain in ways that alter your fundamental capacity for perception, emotion, and action. Dr. Alvaro Pascual Leon's groundbreaking research at Harvard revealed that mental practice alone can create the same neural changes as physical practice. When subjects spent time each day imagining themselves playing piano exercises, their motor cortex developed new neural pathways as if they had been physically practicing those movements. The brain doesn't distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual experiences when it comes to building neural networks. Consider what this means for your own potential for time. You engage transformation. Every focused visualization, you're literally rewiring your brain to support the experiences you're imagining. The neural path with confidence ways associate, success, creativity. Compassion becomes stronger, or with each rehearsal, mental making these states more accessible and natural in actual situations. This process operates through mechanisms that are far and more precise and powerful than any quantum explanation could provide. When neurons fire together repeatedly, they develop stronger synaptic connections through a process neuroscientists summarize as neurons wire together. This activity that fire together, dependent plasticity, allows your brain to adapt its structure to match your most frequent patterns of use. Dr. Sarah Jane Blakemore's research on adolescent brain development reveals that this plasticity continues throughout life, though it's most pronounced during periods learning and development. Adults retain remarkable capacity for neural reorganization, particularly in response to consistent, focused practice of new skills or ways of thinking. The implications for manifestation practices are profound. When you repeatedly visualize yourself as confident, successful, or creative, you're strengthening the neural networks that generate these experiences. Over time, these mental rehearsals make confident, successful, or creative responses more automatic and natural in relevant situations. But here's what's truly remarkable. The changes aren't limited to the specific content of your visualizations. Dr. Judson Brewer's research reveals that contemplative practices create broad improvements, awareness that in attention, emotional regulation, and self-transfer to many life domains. You're not just training specific responses, you're enhancing your general capacity for conscious, intentional living. The default mode network, that vast neural system active during rest and introspection, undergoes particularly interesting changes in response to contemplative practice. Long-term meditators show decreased activity in default mode regions D, with self-referential thinking and increase associated connectivity between regions associated with present moment awareness and emotional regulation. These changes suggest that sustained contemplative practice can fundamentally alter how consciousness operates, shifting from habitual patterns of worry and self-preoccupation toward greater presence, openness, and responsiveness to experience. This immediate transformation operates through measurable neural mechanisms rather than mystical energy shifts. The yet experiential effects can be profound and life-altering. Dr. Wendy Hasenkamp's research on meditation and attention reveals that contemplative practices strengthen networks involved in sustained attention, conflict monitoring, and cognitive flexibility. These improvements enhance general capacity for goal-directed behavior, emotional regulation, and creative problem-solving that support success in virtually any domain. The visualization practices central to manifestation techniques might work by engaging these same attention training mechanisms. Learning to sustain focus on desired outcomes despite mental distractions builds the same attentional stability that supports persistence in challenging real-world situations. Let me share a story that illustrates these principles in action. Dr. Richard Davidson worked with a group of biotechnology employees who were experiencing high levels of workplace stress and low job satisfaction. Half the group participated in an 8-week mindfulness training program that included visualization exercises focused on finding meaning and purpose in their work. Brain scans before and after the training revealed significant changes in the meditation group. Activity increased in left prefrontal regions associated with positive motivation, emotions, and approach, while decreasing in right prefrontal areas linked to withdrawal and negative affect. These neural changes corresponded with improvements in immune satisfaction and overall well-being. Function, job. The participants didn't attribute their improvements to quantum manifestation or energy field manipulation. Instead, they recognized that their contemplative practice had trained their brains to respond more skillfully to workplace challenges and to find greater meaning in their daily activities. Understanding the real mechanisms made their practice more sustainable and effective. The research on loving-kindness meditation provides another fascinating example of how contemplative practices create measurable neural changes. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson's studies reveal that regular practice of sending goodwill to oneself and others increases activity in neural networks associated with empathy, emotional processing, and social connection. These changes aren't limited to meditation sessions. Long-term practitioners show enhanced empathic accuracy in daily social interactions, greater emotional resilience during conflicts, and increased prosocial behavior across diverse situations. The practice literally rewires the brain's social cognition systems to support more compassionate and effective relationships. When manifestation practices include elements of gratitude, appreciation, or loving kindness toward others, they might be engaging these same neural systems. The emotional warmth generated during such practices could strengthen networks associated with positive social emotions, making it easier to build supportive relationships and navigate social challenges effectively. The mirror neuron research adds another layer of understanding. These neurons fire both when you perform actions and when you observe others performing similar actions. When you visualize yourself behaving in specific ways, you might be activating the same mirror neuron systems that would fire during actual behavior, essentially allowing you to learn from observing your own imagined actions. This could explain why visualization often improves actual performance in corresponding situations. You're not attracting external success through quantum entanglement, but you are training the neural systems involved in skillful action through mental rehearsal. Athletes and performers have used this principle for decades, understanding that vivid mental practice can enhance physical performance through entirely natural neural mechanisms. The research on memory reconsolidation reveals another fascinating aspect of how visualization might influence future experience. Each time you recall a memory, it becomes temporarily labile and subject to modification before being reconsolidated. If you visualize past events differently or imagine alternative outcomes to challenging situations, you might actually be reshaping the emotional and behavioral associations linked to those memories. Dr. Karim Nader's research shows that this reconsolidation process can be influenced by the context in which memories are recalled. If you remember past difficulties while in a resourceful, optimistic state, generated through visualization practice, you might be weakening the emotional charge associated with those memories, while strengthening associations with resilience and possibility. This process doesn't change the facts of what happened, but but it could alter how past experiences influence your and behavioral current emotional responses choices. Understanding this mechanism provides specific guidance about how to work skillfully with difficult memories through contemplative practice. The concept of post-traumatic growth, studied Tedeschi, by Dr. Richard, reveals that people can develop greater resilience, deeper relationships, and expanded life perspectives following challenging experiences. Visualization practices that help people imagine themselves growing stronger through difficulties might activate the same psychological processes that support natural post-traumatic growth. When you visualize yourself responding to obstacles with creativity and determination, you're not just preparing for future challenges. You might be strengthening the neural networks that support resilience and growth in the face of adversity. This mental rehearsal could make it more likely that you'll actually respond skillfully when difficulties arise. The social neuroscience research reveals how contemplative practices influence interpersonal dynamics, not just individual neural function through MEs, emotional, durable changes in behavior expression, and social perception. Dr. Tanya Singer's research on compassion training shows that contemplative practices can increase empathic accuracy, reduce implicit bias, and enhance pro-social behavior toward strangers. These changes suggest that visualization practices focus relationships on positive might improve actual through missed social outcomes. Notical attraction but by training emotional, the neural systems involved in EMP regulation and social cognition. When you repeatedly imaginally confident yourself as soft and compassionate, you're strengthening networks that support these qualities in real interactions. The epigenetic research adds yet dimension to our understanding of how conscious and other fascinating practices might influence biological function. Dr. Sarah Lazar's studies reveal that long-term meditation practice can influence gene expression related to inflammation, immune function, and cellular aging. The practices don't change your DNA sequence, but they might influence which genes are actively expressed in ways that support health and longevity. These epigenetic changes occur through entirely natural mechanisms involving stress hormones, neurotransmitters, and other signaling molecules influenced by contemplative practice. Understanding these pathways provides insight into how mental training might influence physical health through biological rather than mystical processes. The research on telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes associated with cellular aging, reveals another potential might influence health and mechanism through which contemplative practices longevity. Dr. Alyssa Eppel's studies suggest that certain types of meditation might slow telomere shortening, potentially extending healthy lifespan through measurable biological effects. When manifest reduction, Asian practices include elements of stress, positive emotion, cultivation, moment awareness. They might be influ and presenting these same biological systems. The health benefits wouldn't result from quantum field manipulation, but from the well-documented effects of reduced chronic stress and enhanced positive emotions on immune function, inflammation, and cellular repair processes. As we pause to reflect on these discoveries, take a moment to appreciate the extraordinary plasticity of your own brain and body. Right now, as you engage with these ideas, you're potentially creating new neural connections that could influence how you think, feel, and behave for years to come. This capacity for lifelong learning and adaptation is one of the most remarkable features of human consciousness. The implications extend far beyond individual transformation. If contemplative practices can genuinely reshape neural function in ways that enhance empathy, emotional regulation, and pro-social behavior, then widespread adoption of such practices might social change through contribute to positive, entirely natural mechanisms. This understanding doesn't diminish the profound personal significance of contemplative practice. Instead, it reveals just how extraordinary the human capacity for conscious development truly is. You possess the ability to literally rewire your own brain through the quality of attention you bring to each moment, the emotions you cultivate, and the mental rehearsals you engage in regularly. If you're finding this exploration of consciousness and neuroplasticity illuminating, consider how these insights might apply to your own contemplative practice. And remember, the goal isn't to dismiss the transformative experiences that drew you to these practices, but to understand them more clearly so you can engage with them more skillfully and effectively. In our continuing journey, we'll explore how advanced contemplative practitioners achieve states of consciousness that seem to transcend ordinary limitations, not through quantum field manipulation, but through the natural yet extraordinary capacity of awareness to recognize its nature. Own deep. These insights might reveal something profound about the ultimate possibilities for human consciousness within the framework of entirely natural, measurable processes. But first, let's rest for a moment in appreciation of the magnificent complexity and plasticity of your own consciousness, operating through mechanisms that evolution has refined over millions of years to create the extraordinary capacity for learning, growth, and transformation that defines human experience at its most remarkable and beautiful. The profound mysteries we've explored tonight converge on something even more extraordinary than neuroplasticity or quantum mechanics themselves. They point toward the deepest enigma of existence, the relationship between consciousness and the cosmos, between awareness and the fundamental, as nature of reality itself. Rest here in this moment of quiet contemplation, your brain performing as fetinish theats that would as greatest quantum computers ever conceived. Billions of neurons are firing in precise orchestration, creating the unified experience of being you. Yet somehow, from this biological symphony of electrical and chemical signals, emerges something that feels entirely non-physical, your subjective experience of awareness itself. This is what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness, and it remains as mysterious today as when humans first wondered about the nature of their own inner experience. We can map every neural pathway, measure every electrical impulse, trace every chemical reaction in the brain. Yet the emergence of subjective experience from objective neural activity continues to elude complete understanding. Dr. Christoph Koch, one of the world's leading consciousness, the neural coral researchers, has spent decades studying states of consciousness. His work reveals that awareness doesn't emerge from any single brain region, but from the integrated activity of distributed neural networks operating in precise coordination. Yet even this integration, measurable and mappable though it may be, doesn't fully explain why there's something it feels like to be you. Some scientists propose that consciousness might be an emergent property, something that arises when information processing reaches sufficient complexity and integration. Dr. Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory suggests that consciousness corresponds to integrated information in a system, that awareness is literally the felt experience of information being unified across neural networks. This theory offers precise mathematical frameworks for measuring consciousness, yet it still faces the fundamental mystery. Why should integrated information feel like anything at all? Why shouldn't complex information processing occur in complete darkness, without any inner light of subjective experience to illuminate it? The question becomes even more profound when we consider that the atoms composing your brain are the same atoms that exist in rocks, stars, and interstellar space. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. These elements follow the same physical laws whether they're floating empty in the neural space or participating networks that generate your thoughts and dreams. Yet, somehow, when these ordinary atoms themselves into the extraordinary organized complexity of your nervous system, something unprecedented is. Mattered Emer becomes conscious of itself. The universe develops the capacity to contemplate its own existence through structures like your brain. Dr. Sean, a theoretical Carroll, physicist at Caltech, has written extensively about this emergence of complexity in the From Cosmos, the initial simplicity of the early universe, gravitational attraction annuations gradually built quantum-fluct, increasingly complex structures. Stars, planets, molecules, cells, and eventually conscious beings capable of wondering about their own existence. This cosmic evolution represents something tendency remarkable. The universe's apparent toward greater complexity and organization, despite the second law of thermodynamics predicting increasing entropy and disorder. Somehow, local lockets of order and PD complexity continue to emerge and flourish, creating islands of increasing sophistication in what might otherwise be a sea of chaos. Your consciousness represents one of the most extraordinary expressions of this cosmic tendency toward complexity. Through the networks of your nervous system, the universe has developed the capacity not just to exist, but to experience existence subjectively, to feel, to contemplate beauty, to seek understanding its own deep ofest nature. This perspective transforms how we might understand the relationship between mind and cosmos. Rather than consciousness being an accident that happened to emerge from unconscious matter, it might represent the natural flowering of cosmic result complexity, the inevitable of the universe's inherent tendency toward greater organization and integration. Dr. Stuart Kauffman, a complexity theorist who studies the emergence of order systems, suggests that consciousness in biological of what might be part, he calls the adjacent possible, the space of potential that opens up as systems become more complex. Just as the emergence of life opened up possibilities that exist in didn't purely physical systems, the trans-emergence of consciousness might open up possibilities that end even biological complexity. So here we rest at the end of our gentle journey through the landscapes of mind and cosmos, having discovered that the real magic was never in quantum fields responding to our wishes, but in the extraordinary capacity of consciousness itself to reshape its own neural foundations through the simple act of focused attention. The manifestation that matters most isn't the external rearrangement of circumstances through mystical means, but the internal transformation of awareness through entirely natural processes that are somehow more miraculous than any supernatural explanation could provide. Your brain's ability to rewire itself based on how you direct your attention, to strengthen neural pathways through mental rehearsal, to literally change its structure in response to contemplative practice. This is the genuine wonder that deserves our awe. As you drift towards sleep tonight, or continue your quiet evening contemplation, carry with you the understanding that you are participating in something far more profound than wish fulfillment. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself, matter organized in such a way that it can wonder about its own existence, awareness capable of reshaping the very neural networks that create awareness. The quantum realm holds its mysteries still, operating according to principles so precise they can predict electron behavior to 15 decimal places. But the deeper mystery lies here, in this moment, in your capacity to contemplate these very thoughts, to feel moved by beauty, to experience the profound interconnectedness that needs no quantum entanglement to explain. If this exploration brought you peace or curiosity, consider sharing it with someone who values the quiet wonder of understanding over the false promises of magical thinking. Until we meet again in these spaces where stillness meets the universe, may your dreams be filled with the genuine marvels of consciousness exploring its own infinite depths. Sweet dreams, fellow travelers in this magnificent cosmos of mind and matter, where the greatest manifestation of all is simply the miracle of being aware.